I got another Sony device. I got the Sony HDR-AS300. I think they just came out with a new one, the MV1. That's that's 1/3 smaller than this one, but it doesn't have optical image stabilization. I really like this one because I used to have a GoPro, and I got rid of the GoPro, I sold it, and got this one because I really didn't like how the GoPro didn't have any image stabilization. And these days, all the cameras, even the new Nikon, new Nikon portable cameras and the new GoPros and all the other ones out there, they have image stabilization, but it's not optical image stabilization. It's electronic image stabilization, which is not as good. Optical image stabilization is better. So this one is the only action camera I believe that has the full optical image stabilization. The Garmin's and the Nikons and whatever, they all have just electronic. And GoPro also has the electronic one, image stabilization, which is not as good. And of course, it's splash proof, waterproof, ultra wide angle. It should be very, very similar to my Sony music video recorder. That's what I'm actually using right now to record this video. And I've been using the music video recorder for a long time. I did a review on it, told you guys how I really like it and stuff. And this should be the same form factor, so I'm really happy about that. I don't have to adapt to a new device. It should be very similar. So this is the Sony music video recorder here in the waterproof case. I think this, without this case, is just splash proof, but with the case, it becomes 60 meters or 197 feet waterproof. So that's much better if you want to take some videos underwater, which I won't be doing that much, but it's nice to have. You got the tripod mount right here. You got the micro USB. You have a battery, and what else? Sony ads, a sticker, warranty. I have so many Sony devices now. I have like so many copies of these warranties and stuff. It's always the same ones, the same kind of format or whatever for all their devices. Okay, and the Sony 4K video camera recorder, right? You can record in 4K just like most action cameras can these days. So you have a startup guide and a reference guide. And yeah, that should be good enough for getting started. Standard camera stuff. Alright, and the camera itself, the waterproof casing here. How do I unlock? Open like this. Oh, and it latches like that. Let's see, and it slips off like that. Okay, it slips off like that. There we go. So it just slips off like that, and then this is what the actual action cam looks like. Now the MV1 is even smaller than this. It's like this size, which is really, really small, but it's kind of like the GoPro Session. But it doesn't have the optical image stabilization, only electronic. So I'm going to keep this one. This one's already small enough anyways. It doesn't make that much difference if it's like 1/3 smaller, and this is already small. So it's got balanced optical steady shot, which is the optical image stabilization. The only action camera that has this feature, which is why I got it, and also because it's Sony. Zeiss lens, record button, and power button. You should have the battery lock right here. Should be the battery compartment, right? That's right, it's battery compartment. And HDMI multi microphone right here. This is also a flap, right? Let's see. Yep. This is also flap, so you can see the micro. Yeah, you got micro HDMI, and external microphone in. This is a little tiny screen here, but you do have a screen. Oh, you don't have a screen on the MV1 also, but you do have a screen on the AS300, which is this model here, the HDR-AS300. And up and down menu buttons, NFC. But the same features that you get with the Sony music video recorder that I'm recording this with. Tripod mount, and micro SD card slot right here. Ooh, micro SD card slot. And What is that even smaller one? M2, okay. Is that really? Okay, yeah, it's a SD card slot and an M2 slot right there, okay. Stereo mics. It's not as good as my Sony music recorder mics, which is obviously why I'm keeping this. I'm keeping my Sony music video recorder just for the mics, the recording capabilities, but this one is going to be really cool, and optical image stabilization, really small form factor, splash proof and waterproof with the casing, so I'm going to use this one a lot when I go traveling or hiking or biking or any of those things. So yeah, that's cool. The Sony, this is a Sony AS300. Hey guys, yep. Today we're going to talk about my action camera a little bit. This is my Sony HDR-AS300, which I did an unboxing video of several years back. I haven't talked about this camera in depth too much, and today I actually bought a replacement for this camera, so I do want to talk about that too and do the unboxing of that. But first we're going to talk about this camera a little bit. I haven't talked too much about it. So yeah, this is an action camera. As you can see, the size is very, very small, and it has an ultra wide angle lens because it's designed to be used when you're doing something that requires hands-free operation usually, right? So actually I bought a head strap with this so you can strap it to your head. You can also use it with a selfie stick or basically a tripod, right? It has a tripod mount. So there's a variety of ways you can use this. You can put it on your bike handlebars, and you can use this while you're biking and stuff. So being an action camera, it's designed for use in several different scenarios, right? You could be doing some extreme sports, right? Like snowboarding or something like that, or surfing. And this camera basically competes with the GoPro series of cameras, right? So back in 2013, I got my first action camera, which was called the Contour Roam 2. So back then, there was a company called Contour, and they were competing with GoPro at the time. I think they were pretty much the only other major competitor with GoPro. GoPro is the company that really kind of kickstarted the whole action camera industry. And then Contour is a company that I'll try to compete with them with a different style of camera. So GoPro cameras, if you guys know about GoPros, they mostly make like small squarish cameras, and Contour went with a different style, and they produced cameras that are more like this style, like basically small mini camcorder type of look, right? So yeah, they released the Roam 2, which at the time recorded 720p, and it's actually very similar to this camera I'm holding right here, the Sony AS300, except it was a bit bigger. But yeah, I used that when I was living in San Francisco. I actually used it, actually if you can see some of my previous videos on YouTube, I used it when I went to the Bay to Breakers Festival in 2013, and also when I was driving around San Francisco on my scooter back then. So yeah, that was that was pretty much the action camera I had during that time, and those were the cases where I used it, which I thought was just cool. You know, like you can do things like that. And before action cameras were invented, before GoPro came onto the market, there was not a lot of good ways to record those kind of things, right? Like there wasn't easy ways to record that kind of thing. What were you going to do? Strap a camcorder to your bike, right? Like it wasn't easy back then. So once the small camera market came out, you know, GoPro and Contour, all these other companies, Garmin, came out with their action cameras as well. Then that whole market kind of grew. So that was 2013. Then 2014, I switched to the GoPro Hero 3 Plus Silver. And that was the action camera I used from 2014 all the way to 2016. So some instances of the videos you might see on my channel using that camera. So I recorded a video of myself and my friend biking in the Han River, right, Hangang. So this is like the action camera I had when I was living in Korea. So I took a footage of myself and my friend biking. So that was using the GoPro Hero 3 Plus Silver. Also, when me and my friend were participating in this marathon called the Rock Race back in 2014. That was the camera I used back then. And also the first Seoul Waterbomb Festival video I did back in 2016, that was actually using the GoPro Hero 3 as well. The problem with those two cameras though, the Contour Roam and the GoPro Hero 3, is that they didn't have any kind of stabilization. So electronic image stabilization wasn't very good back then, and optical image stabilization was pretty much non-existent on action cameras back then. So even in 2016, when GoPro released the successor, the Hero 4, it still only had electronic image stabilization, didn't have optical image stabilization. So when this camera came out, the Sony HDR-AS300, this is the first action camera I saw on the market with actually optical image stabilization, which was a huge feature, right? Because if you look at my old videos I took with the Contour and the GoPro, you'll notice that those videos are not stabilized, right? The technology just wasn't there at that time, so my videos are really shaky, from that time, right? Especially that biking video, like that's, yeah, just extremely shaky. And that the Waterbomb Festival, I had to like try to use some software to help, but it still like ended up being pretty shaky. So yeah, it just, the technology wasn't there yet for stabilizing videos back then. There wasn't any kind of, DJI didn't come out with any of their Osmos yet at that time. And all the action cameras back then didn't have any kind of stabilization. So that is what it is. But after I saw this camera on the market in 2016, I believe this was the first camera I saw with optical image stabilization built in. So I was like, okay, I got to get this camera because stabilization is really important for action camera videos, right? Usually when you're using an action camera, you're doing something really active, right? So of course you're going to need stabilization. And back then, you know, smartphones didn't have any kind of stabilization either. So really, this was the first choice I saw back then. So yeah, and I think even to this day, Sony puts this kind of technology into its camera phones as well, the Xperia line. They call it steady shot technology. Steady shot technology, which is their electronic stabilization technology. For this optical image stabilization technology, they call it active steady shot. So I believe this is the first kind of small camera consumer product that they actually put active steady shot technology in. So yeah, this is really cool, right? So just going the features of this camera. This camera retailed for $300 brand new back then. We're talking about 2016 when this first came out. 170 degrees field of view with a wide angle camera here, ultra wide angle camera I should say. For action cameras, having ultra wide angle is really important, right? Because you're doing something, you know, you want to see a clear view of. So you get the whole type of landscape scenery there. GoPro, of course, had that kind of fisheye look, which they reduced in later versions. But at the time, you know, they still kind of had that fisheye look, and I didn't really like that too much. But for the Sony, it's relatively okay. Doesn't have that kind of, it's not too distorted. The microphone is actually pretty decent. So this is stereo mics, and that's what led to me replacing my Sony music video recorder. So if you go back in my videos, I actually used this device called a Sony music video recorder, which also had an ultra wide angle lens and also had a really good microphone. It had a stereo XY microphone, and I used that for my product reviews back then actually. But then I actually replaced that with this, because this mic, it's not as good as the Sony music video recorder, because that's a camera that's pretty much dedicated to recording audio basically, because it has yeah, a really good set of mics there. But this microphone is honestly almost as good. So that's why, yeah, I ended up replacing that, because this was my action camera. I didn't need to have a separate camera just for recording, you know, nice audio at the time. And I thought, well, this is a smaller device too, right? It's smaller than my Sony music video recorder was like this big. So I was like, this is a smaller device, and I use it as my action camera. So I'm going to use it to replace my Sony music video recorder, which I did. And that just goes to show, since that camera was really good at recording audio, just goes to show that how good the mics on this camera are, right? Because that camera had like, yeah, dedicated like a set of mics right there. And you can physically see those mics, right? This one you don't see too much of it, but yeah, that Sony music video recorder was no joke. Like that camera, like even if you used it today, you can record like music videos, concerts and stuff with it, right? That's how good the mics on that camera was. And then going on the side here, you have the menu here button. Up and down, it has NFC, which Sony usually has on their products. This model, of course, if you want to look it up, HDR-AS300. I've had it for 5 years now, which goes to show like this. It's more like I haven't really had much opportunity to use this, which is why I haven't replaced it yet until today, basically. Haven't thought about replacing it until today. So I didn't use it all that much, actually. Then if you look on top here, this is actually the light that will light up when it's recording. Balanced optical steady shot is their technology for the optical image stabilization. So that's their name for it. The record button, on button. And then this side here, they're using Zeiss lens, because Sony usually has a partnership with Zeiss. And yeah, I mean, for their phones and for their Alpha series cameras, right, they have a lot of partnerships with Zeiss for their lenses and stuff like that. It makes sense to put Zeiss on here. So why not? If they have that partnership, just put the name on it. I'm sure Zeiss can add some of their anti-reflective T-star coating or whatever on it, which is generally pretty good. At the bottom, you have a tripod mount, so you can mount this to pretty much anything, this being an action camera, so it's very, very versatile. And then you have a micro SD card slot right here, right, of course, for expandable storage. And then at the back here, this is the battery remove cover. You can lock the battery cover like this, or unlock it, so you can
This is a replaceable battery. The good thing about this camera is that since it's a Sony camera, all the Sonys pretty much use the same kind of battery here. So this is a third-party battery, but all my Alpha series cameras and in this camera, as well as the current camera I'm using to record this, which is a Sony ZV-1, they all use pretty much the same battery. So I can use this camera's battery in here, and I can use this camera's battery in my current camera, which I'm using to record this video. So that's really cool. That Sony's batteries are kind of interchangeable. So even going back to 2016, they're still using these kind of batteries. So yeah, then that means I only need to keep one set of batteries for them and change it out. And then here, right, you have the different ports. You have micro HDMI output to a TV. And then you have micro USB. This is 2016, right? Micro USB was still very common. And then you can attach an external microphone to here. So if the microphone on this camera, which I already think is pretty good for the size, if that's not good enough, you can always attach an external mic. So that's pretty nice as well. So yeah, we can turn it on. All right. So yeah, I usually leave it on 720p in 30 frames per second. If I do 1080, then it's going to drain more battery life usually, but even on 720p at 30 frames per second, you can record 3 hours, 53 minutes on a standard, what is this, 32 gig micro SD card. So that's about what you're looking at. And then here's the different menus here. You use the record is enter basically. So you can do this video mode, you can do photo mode. I don't know why you'd ever take pictures using this thing when you can just use your phone, but there's a timer live. I'm not sure what that is, but it's there. This looks like some kind of looping ability. Not sure what that is. I haven't tried most of these. I just let's leave it in the standard video mode. Down here, here are the different settings. Oh, it's actually using 1080. Okay, my bad. So I guess 1080 at 30 frames per second, it can record almost 4 hours of footage on a 32 gig micro SD card, which isn't too bad. MP4, right, that's a pretty common format. I have active steady shot turned on. Of course, I want optical image stabilization. Why wouldn't I want it? And then zoom and everything turned off here. You can always set that. This is maybe different angles of view or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Zoom in or on. Yeah, I don't bother too much with these settings, but they're there. And let's see. Yeah, active steady shot. I wonder why this one is it just says STD. What does that mean? Standard something? I'm not sure. MP4. You can also save it as AVC-SHD, which is that's a format that I've seen on camcorders before, but I've not too familiar with it. MP4 is the more portable format for me, right? You can easily upload it to YouTube and stuff. I don't think you can upload this to YouTube. I think that requires further editing. Of course, you can do 1080 at 60 frames per second is probably the max setting you can go with. It's just going to make your videos look really smooth. For me, I usually do 30, but I think, yeah, if you're doing really fast movement, if you're expecting fast movement, then yeah, 60 makes sense. It'll make it look smoother. Yeah, so you can set it to 60 frames per second. HQ, STD, HS. All right. Well, 720, 30 frames. You can also do 720, 120 frames. So if you're doing slow motion, then I think the 720 at 120 frames is going to be the way to go here. And then you can even go down to 480 at 240 frames. I highly do not recommend this because 480 is basically DVD quality. That's not going to look good on modern computers and TVs. But you can get really slow motion with that. I think if you're doing slow motion, just go with the 720, 120 frames per second. Most people would probably want to stick with the 1080 or the 720 settings here, right? 720 if you really want to save battery life. So usually I use 720 at 30p or 1080 at 30p, right? 720 will save me more battery life and it won't take up as much space on my memory card. But yeah, if you want the highest quality, then 1080 at 60 makes sense. Alright, and then so now you can see that the battery life changed too. So now that I'm recording 60 frames a second, it's 2 hours 30 minutes. So yeah, of course, recording more frames per second is going to affect the battery life, obviously. Alright, so we went over that. Not sure what these do exactly. Then you can actually adjust. What I'm guessing is this is the contrast. You can adjust the contrast, I think. And then scenery, neutral, or fish Is this some kind of underwater mode or something like that? AWB, this is auto white balance, I believe. So you can set the white balance here. I just leave it on auto. Vivid, this is the picture mode I have right now. I think neutral will probably be better. Vivid is a little bit too artificial looking sometimes. Microphone, you can turn the microphone on and off. I don't know why you would turn it off, but anyways. And then this is a wind reduction, I believe. So interesting, it's built-in noise wind reduction, I guess. So thing about turning it on is I'm afraid it might, this is basically a low cut or low pass filter, right? So you could turn it on and it will reduce like wind noise and stuff like that, but it also might reduce some other noises that, you know, you might be feeling like you're missing some frequencies. So yeah, if you're in a windy environment, then you can turn it on, but otherwise I suggest leaving it off so you get more dynamic frequency response, right, in your video. So otherwise it's gonna cut out a lot of that. Or you can also adjust it in post-production, right? You can always do a low-pass filter in post-production and then just do that. So you don't need to necessarily set it on here. And then nothing on the last page. So that's it for that. And then this option here, I believe, is outputting to a TV, right? So if you have micro HDMI connected, then you can output to a TV here. And then, yeah, this is the last setting here, which is basically system settings, airplane mode. Interesting, this says airplane mode. I guess because it has Wi-Fi, right? So this actually has Wi-Fi, which is interesting because I don't think I ever used the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth for anything here. Oh, you know what it's for? It's for that watch accessory. Yes. So Sony actually sells a separate watch accessory that you can put on your wrist, and basically it will act as a live viewfinder for this camera. Because you notice one of the problems with this camera is that it doesn't have a viewfinder. So you don't actually know what you're shooting. You have to actually like kind of position it and kind of hope that you get what you get, or maybe just check it, you know, but you got to take out the card and check it. But there's no live viewfinder here. There's no preview. Of course, I also have to mention that for the older action cameras, like for the GoPro Hero 3 that I had and the Contour Roam, neither of those cameras had any kind of viewfinder or anything. Just it just had the basic menu selection, just like this Sony. So yeah, I mean, back then the action cameras didn't really come with viewfinders very much. You had to basically buy a separate kind of accessory like a watch or something. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I mean, we are talking about the olden days here. So in order to actually get the preview or get a viewfinder on what you're actually shooting, then you need to buy a separate watch accessory which attaches to your hand. And I guess that's what the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi might be for, is for connecting to that watch accessory. I don't actually, yeah, I don't have it because I find that, I know this camera is really small and maybe they didn't put the technology in for live preview. But for me, like, I usually just set it and I forget it, like just like that, because this camera lens is wide enough that will basically capture almost anything that's reasonably, you know, in front of it. So I don't really have to check the preview all too much. So I didn't find myself necessarily needing that, right? Like you might be thinking, oh, you really need to see what you're shooting and stuff like that. Well, with a camera lens that's this wide, you'll definitely get what you're getting in front of you. Like, there's no worries about that, right? So yeah, but yeah, you can buy that optional watch accessory, and then it'll pair with it, and then you get a watch. You'll get a live preview on that watch of what you're shooting, which is pretty cool, I guess. Don't know what this is actually. There's a lot of settings I'm actually in the dark about because I never use them. Okay, next one we did. Nope, that's formatting the card, the SD card. This is HDMI resolution. This is the output to the TV resolution. Background music. Interesting. I didn't know you can put background music. USB mode. Music on, off. I don't know what these music settings are related to. Can this thing play music or what? I don't exactly understand that. Light. Is that the brightness of the LCD? Or is that the brightness of this light, this LED light when it's recording? Not sure. Record on and off. Okay, I'm not sure what that means exactly. Auto off. Okay, so this turns the camera automatically on and off if not touched for 60 seconds. So I have it set to. This is NTSC, PAL, the different formats, Europe versus North America. This is the time. Oops. Move back. GMT zone. This is daylight savings time, I think. version. Okay, so I think, yeah, the Wi-Fi might also be, is it because you can upgrade the firmware? I think if you upgrade the firmware, you can actually do it via the USB cable connected to your computer to upgrade the firmware. So yeah, I guess I never really use the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi. Might as well just turn them off to save battery life. But yeah, and then this is the normal interface here that tells you Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, battery life, format, frames per second, active study shot, the time that you have left, and the mode that you have in. So yeah, and no live preview of what you're recording, no viewfinder. For that, you'll have to get the watch. But again, like I said, I never really personally used it because this thing pretty much always records most of what is in front of you because of how wide the lens are. So yeah, if you guys are curious about the image quality and the type of video you can get from this, you guys can look at the video I took in Seoul at the Water Bomb Festival in 2019, 2 years ago. That's when I used this device. And yeah, I used this device because I had a waterproof case for it, and for those types of events when you're like shooting people with water guns and stuff, of course I can't use an Osmo, I can't use my normal phone for that. Well, I guess my normal phone is waterproof, but it wasn't that wide angle or anything. I wanted to get a ultra wide angle, and I wanted something that was water resistant. Actually, I have the waterproof case right here. So this is the waterproof case that I used with my Sony action camera. You can buy this separately, but basically this attaches to a mount right here, and I have this head strap mount. So this is the exact setup I used for the Seoul Water Bomb Festival. I had this attached to my head, so this is like a it's a head strap, right? I bought this separately, but yeah, you have a head strap here, and then this is a tripod mount right here, so you can attach anything to it. You can attach, you know, the camera to it just like this. But because I was at a water event, right, I needed this to be able to withstand water. So then that's what I have this waterproof case for. So you just put it in here, and then you just latch it on like this. And then that's it, and now it's in the waterproof case, right? So all these buttons are basically just buttons that will hit the correct buttons. Hold lock as well, so you don't accidentally hit your buttons here. But yeah, this is what I used at the Seoul Water Bomb Festival 2 years ago, and what I used to record with. So yeah, if you guys want, I'm going to show that video so you guys can see the image quality from this Sony right here. It's not bad. I mean, this was 2016, right? Obviously, technology has improved since then, but this wasn't a bad solution if you want to record, you know, something that needed, you know, a wide angle field of view, ultra wide angle field of view. If you're doing something, you know, like water sport or something active that also required stabilization, obviously. This had it all, and it comes in a very compact form factor, right? And even this waterproof case still has a tripod mount, which makes it easy to mount anywhere, even on a selfie stick or something. So yeah, you can also mount it on, like, yeah, handlebars or anything like that. So yeah, I mounted it to my head strap. So anyways, guys, take a look at that footage and see what you think.